Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Happy New Year. This is the first video of 2024. Here on the bench, I have a Peavey Classic 30 amplifier in a tweed, and this is a bit of a rarity because this is a 2013 generation model. It has the Blue Marvel speaker in it, which is basically made by Eminence. It's just relabeled as Blue Marvel. And this is a made in America, made in the USA version. However, the internals are completely different. This is the Classic 30 number 2, and this has not the L-shaped board that you would normally find in the vintage ones that I think the first generation came out in 1992. And this particular one, and we take a look at on the inside here, this is the single double-sided PCB, not the L-shaped version that you will typically see. And the way you can tell that it is the flat two-sided board is that normally you would have the standby switch here, which is not present on the more vintage versions of it. This is what you would normally find now with the Classic 32 if it's made in China, but this is a bit of a rarity because this was right around the time, 2013 was right around the time they started moving production over to China. So this is the last USA made, but with the updated internals. As you can see, I've already taken the amplifier section out of the casing. This is the version with the oval logo here in the front, not more of the square looking body design. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 screws that need to be removed, plus one little screw for the reverb tank wires, which I've already removed the reverb tank here. And it's up here on the bench, and it's nestled nicely here. They actually go and put this cage around all of the valves. It's got all JJs in there. So it's nice and protected. Some of the older versions did not have that, and unfortunately it would cause the tubes to get damaged if it got bashed around in your car and whatnot. But the complaint is that you turn on the amplifier, let it warm up for 2 minutes, turn on the standby, everything powers up, cool. But within like 3 to 5 minutes later, you hear this pinging sound, and then all of a sudden it starts to get a really bad background hum. You can check out what that hum sounds like in this video here. So as you can see from that previous segment, I really think that we're dealing with some solder flux conductivity issues. I think somebody else was in here before me, although maybe it's original. I can't really say for sure. But this solder flux here was not cleaned off. I'm going to go with that. I'm going to say that the person that was likely in here before me didn't clean up the solder well enough to where we're now having this solder flux be conductive between these pins on the sockets. And what I'm basically going to do right now, and I'm not going to really film too much of it because it's going to take a little bit of time, I'm going to use some 91% isopropyl rubbing alcohol, and with some Q-tips and with a little bit of time and some elbow grease, I'm going to clean up all of these solder points here, and then I'll have to look at them very carefully and make sure that there's no cracked solder joints, because that could also be another problem. But I'm hoping that once I clean everything up, that it should solve that problem. Here's an update on all of the cleaning of those solder points there. And I did all the work here. You can see how dirty those Q-tips are. It was a pretty painstaking process to do, but I think I'm going to be in good shape. Cleaned everything up. Now what I just need to go through, and I'm going to need a magnifying glass to kind of check each one, make sure there's no broken solder joints or anything like that. There you can see this one a little better here. I don't see any trace that is not supposed to be there where the solder flux, now the flux that they use in electronics just for informational purposes, most of it is not conductive. There are different blends and whatnot. There's, plumber's flux is different than electronics flux, for example. But it's not so much the flux that becomes conductive, it's the junk in the air that eventually will cause it to be conductive. There's dust in the air, there's all kinds of particulates in the air, and eventually, with enough heat and time, that is exactly what will happen. And you can see in a picture here that I really think that's the problem. It doesn't create a very low ohm resistance, but it creates a high impedance path between the pins. And since we're dealing with a high impedance device such as a vacuum tube, then yeah, that I'm almost positive that is where we are having that humming issue. Wanted to briefly talk about the serviceability of this version of the board in the Classic 30, and I really think that this is a better design compared to the L-shaped version of the older design. Those are very unforgiving, very hard to work on, and if you're trying to fix one thing, if you're in the process of taking it out, you're going to wind up causing more damage on it. I do see that they have made some improvements, and for those that are interested, the original Classic 30 L-shaped boards came with 2 screen resistors at 100 ohms, which were very small of a value, and they only put it on 2 out of the 4 power valves. I see here that they have 1, 2, 3, 4 screen resistors here that are part of the power valves here. So actually 1, 2, 3, and 4. They're 1K 5 watts, and that's a little bit more what I was expecting for an EL84 type amplifier. So there's an improvement there. So they have made some improvements. And you can probably see here, so here's your filter capacitors, which I thought the filter capacitors were going bad on this amplifier since it is a 2013. However, it is still kind of early for this amplifier to be having its filter capacitors replaced. But it is not just one capacitor. You have a bank of 8 here, you have another bank of 2, 4, 6, another bank of 8 here, and then a bank of 6 over here. All have to do with the power supply. And it looks like that it would be fairly easy to remove them. They are held in together by this hot snot glue, which I don't really like that because it is a thermoplastic. I would much rather them having used something more like a neutral curing silicone, something that's not going to be susceptible to heat, for example. So that is definitely not, it's not the best. It works, but it's not the best. So that's just, I'm going to call that out. But yeah, there you go. All right, guys, well, I just got the amplifier back together. I did test it to see if the hum would come back. Unfortunately, it did. But the good news is that the pins on the power section of the board have been cleaned. We're good to go there. The amplifier service ready to go. I am going to replace the power tubes there that are likely worn out at this point. And I did reach out to the seller on Reverb. I told him what was going on. And honestly, I really believe the conductive flux was the cause of the problem, and now the symptom that we're hearing with the humming is a worn out power tube, probably more than one. Can't really say for sure. We did come to an agreement. I was given a choice. He said either, we can send you a return label and we can return this entire amplifier for a full refund, no problems at all, or we can do a partial credit, and I elected for the partial credit, to which I'm going to use that credit to go and purchase a new set of power valves. Now, the cost of a matched quad of EL84s ranges anywhere from $80 to $130. Well, some of them include shipping and some of them don't. But that's about the cost of the power valves. And there's 3 12AX7s. Now, the 3 12AX7s, I don't hear any humming. I don't hear any microphonics or anything like that. So those 3 valves are good. I wound up getting a set of Electro Harmonix EL84s and 3 12AX7s. I got them for less than what the JJs were selling for, because when I figure that the cost of the power valves by themselves versus buying a set for this Classic 30, I wound up just buying the set, and I got a better deal buying the whole set. Hey, good deal. that should be in a few days, and we should be good to go. Here we are a few days later. The new set of EL84s came in, along with 3 12AX7s from EHX. Big shout out to Brad over at MyGuitarSupply. I purchased them off of Reverb, and here is their QR code if you want to go on their mailing list. Big thumbs up, thank you so very much. Made an offer, and he took the offer. So we're going to go ahead and install these and then warm up the amplifier and see if that noise comes back or not. Just got the valves installed, V1, V2, V3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And what I had to do is I took this cage off. It's just a couple screws here, and one here, and finally one here. This whole thing comes off, and they are ceramic sockets here, so that is a good thing. It's a good sign of quality there. Sometimes you see the less expensive amplifiers with plastic sockets, and that's a really bad thing to have. But changed them out. Let's go and power it up and see how it sounds. Alright guys, I just got the amplifier plugged in, and I'm going to first turn on the power, wait about a minute or so, and then we'll turn on the standby and we'll listen to the speaker. I'll move the camera a little bit closer so you can hear the background hum if there is any, and let's just see how they turn out. I'll also take a picture of the valves as they warmed up, but I'll see if I can get a second camera angle. So here we go. No red plating. I'll give that a chance to warm up. Alright, that's about normal background hum, but let's see if it gets any louder. Should also test the reverb. I'll do the boost channel. I think we're good. Let's go into the back here. Take a look at these. That's just the filaments glowing. Oops, there we go. So yeah, sounds good. Nice and quiet. Alright guys, I'm going to end the video here. If there's any questions about the newer Peavey Classic 30 number 2 with the updated board internals, please let me know. But thankfully, we just had to do some basic maintenance and service, and then a new set of power valves and preamp valves to boot. This amplifier is ready to rock. Till the next video guys, thanks for watching.